Hi, and welcome to lesson number 40 for English 3. We are in the second semester. This is the Monday-Tuesday lesson for the week of February the 8th. This week will be a little bit different than normal weeks. On Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have regular class. On Thursday, we'll have a guest come in and talk to us about junior and senior issues and upcoming events and important information. On Friday, we will have the day off, and next Monday on the 15th, we will have the day off. So we will only have the one lesson this week for the Monday-Tuesday lesson. Today in the lesson, we're going to talk about in the writing lesson the essay number 3 outline, which is due next Friday on the 19th. For literature, we're going to look at the things they carried reading number 2, which is due on the 20th of April. And we're going to be looking at a method for incorporating quotes into your essay as you work on your rough draft next month in March. Our old assignments right now are the voice and choice number 1, which is an extra credit assignment, the reading number 1 Zimbardo assignment, which was due on Friday the 5th, and our upcoming assignments are the second reading for Sachs, which is due on the 9th, and the voice and choice number 2 and third reading, which are both due on the 12th. We did the second and third readings last week in class live. They were assigned last week, and you can still read those along with us by going to the recordings. The voice and choice number 2 we've been referencing every class last week as well as this week. Your essay number 3 outline will also be due next Friday on the 19th. The 15K extra credit booster is an ongoing credit opportunity. If you'd like to take a shot at that, we'd be happy to have you write for that 15K group to get some mastery extra credit. And the things they carried readings 1, 2, 3, and 4 will all be due on the same day, and those are all ACT prep extra credit and a really good book that I hope you'll read along with me. All right, let's talk about our learning targets for this lesson real quick. And that QR code up there is a link to the living syllabus that has all of the recorded explanations and lessons of readings if you want to grab that. For this lesson in the writing portion, we're going to be looking at the outline and quotes step of essay number 3. This means we can create an argumentative statement, a counterclaim, and incorporate quotes from an article. For the literature portion of this lesson, we're going to make sure that you know where to go to complete the extra credit literature readings, how to do those, and how they're going to help you prepare for the ACT while reading a really, really good text. And then for the informational part of this lesson, we're going to be practicing incorporating a quote using a really clear multi-step process. And this is going to allow you to take an interesting quote from a text and build a large paragraph around it that connects back to a claim. So basically, if you can find a really good quote that supports or contradicts your belief, you can use this system to build an entire paragraph around that really good quote. So this is a system that we're going to talk about today that can help you in the rough draft and in the outline of your essay. Real quick, a review of the week structure. We have a lesson normally on Mondays and Tuesdays. Office hours for me are from 12 to 2:30 on Wednesdays. I will not have office hours this week. I'm taking a personal day for family observance. And this week we will have a class on Thursday, but there will be no class on Friday because we will have the day off. And the class on Thursday will have a guest in there. So really we only need the lesson at the beginning of the week this week on Mondays and Tuesdays. All right, the voice and choice prompt number 2 is the one that will be due at the end of this week. The voice prompt remains, how should people be held responsible for their actions? We're still kind of thinking about the impact of group dynamics on individuals, as we've been reading about in our 3 readings in preparation for the essay number 3. So kind of with that in mind, how should people be held responsible for their actions? When, to what degree? And for the 10 paths voice and choice prompts, for the choice prompts, you'll be choosing one of these 10 paths to respond to. Some of the paths are multi-part, like the innovator has business, aviation, and trades, or the mentor has education and psychology, or the fittest has medicine and sports. So, some of them have multiple, or the journalist has journalism and law, or author is, film or writing. So you'll be choosing one of these that most interests you, and you'll have a whole new set of them after this week, next week. And we're going to be doing voice and choice on a 2-week rotating basis to give everybody a chance to respond to these and to give me a chance to listen to everyone's responses. Okay, so here we go with the writing lesson for this lesson. We're going to be aiming at the outline, which is due on the 19th. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the structure of the whole assignment. And the lesson for next week, we're going to talk about specifically completing the assignment as a group, and we're going to have more space in class to do that work. So this is more of an introduction to the assignment, and then next week we're going to have less talking and more working space. So in this outline assignment, you're going to be naming the article that you'll be quoting. You will be choosing an article either from the 3 we read together or from the list in Google Classroom. You're going to be posting a quote from that article you'd like to include in your essay. You're going to write a thesis statement on how you personally evaluate what's right or wrong, or how you believe other people do that. And you're going to create a counter argument for evaluating right and wrong that disagrees with your thesis. You're going to use quotes from one or more articles to support your claim, or you're going to use them to argue against as part of your counterclaim. In the assignment itself, I have these useful links for you. The first link is to the essay rubric itself, so you can see that rubric language if you want to get kind of high up there in the weeds as to exactly what your final draft is going to be held to. There are the texts for quoting. The second link will take you to the full text set. The third link will take you to an essay example titled Signs of Guilt. We're going to be breaking that one down as we do our rough drafts. The fourth link will take you to the assignment explanation sheet, and the fifth, sixth, and seventh links are broken up. The first link in the fifth one is to the article. The second one is to us reading the article together with images and discussion. The sixth one is the article, with the second link on the sixth being the group discussion and questions, and then the seventh one is the article itself and with the link to the group discussion. All right, so some things that your paper must include to get full credit. It must have an introduction paragraph with an explicitly stated thesis that we'll be putting together in your outline assignment. It must have 3 or 4 body paragraphs, each having a topic sentence and 3 to 4 supporting details with at least 2 quotes from an article. It needs to have a conclusion paragraph. And new to essay number 3, it must have language that recognizes the opposing viewpoint or shows an argument between 2 claims. So we need to have a counterclaim in this essay for you to get above a 1 in idea development on the rubric. So let's get into the assignment itself. You're going to be referring to an article or source. So anywhere you see this pink color on the assignment, that's where you'll be doing writing. Your sources could include the 3 articles we read together. They could be any of the other articles from the Google Classroom texts. You could be quoting a TED Talk, or you could be quoting any text that you feel helps people determine right from wrong, or supports or contradicts your beliefs about how people do that. The example I give is a text that I found when I was Googling, so kind of look for that in a second. In the assignment itself, you'll drop the title of the article where it says the title you will be using goes here, and then you'll drop a couple of the quotes that you want to use in your essay right below that, just so that you don't have to continuously go back and forth from the article to your page while you're working. All right, this is the working example that is in the document itself. I don't necessarily agree with this claim, but this is, I think, a useful one for example. The green on this slide is your thesis. The blue is the counterclaim. The yellow is a supporting concept, and the orange is a supporting concept. So in my example, my main topic or thesis is, my big claim is, I think people learn right or wrong from their faith. My conflicting quote or counterclaim in blue is, situations can change a person's sense of right or wrong. That is in conflict with my first statement. My first statement says, people get their sense of morality from faith. My second statement says, situations change people's understanding of morality. So then my third concept in yellow is, many holy texts say the same things about the golden rule. And my fourth concept is, morality is generally the same across faiths, meaning the idea of good and evil is usually the same across different religions. Your thesis should include a counter argument. So why are we doing that? Well, if you start your essay with the counter argument baked into your thesis, it's going to be a lot easier to create a clear structure for me as your reader and grader in your rough draft and final draft. And the elements you really want to have in this thesis statement are a claim in green, a counterclaim in blue, support for your claim in yellow, and a little bit more support for your claim in orange. So if you can do that 4-part thesis statement, then you're going to set yourself up for an easy essay, or an essay that will be at least a lot easier than if you just kind of wing it, because you need to include that blue counterclaim. So the example I end up with here is, to put together the stuff from the last slide, I think people learn right and wrong from their faith, colon. Some people argue that situations can change a person's sense of right or wrong, comma, but many holy texts say the same things about the golden rule, comma, and most religions are targeted at helping people choose to do the right thing. So you can see that I have all 4 of those elements, claim, counterclaim, support, and support, in my thesis already, and they're going to drive the structure of my entire essay. The next part asks for something completely different. It asks for a short story or event that is related to your claim. This can be an event from your own life, from history. I say include an anecdote from your life, but it doesn't have to be from your life. It could be someone you know or have heard about. But what it will do is it will help you ground your argument in experienced reality. And this will make it easier for you to make a strong argument from one of the classical rhetorical triangle. You'll be able to make a strong argument that people connect to. Paragraph 2 is the counter to your argument. So this is the anti-claim, or the counter-claim to your original green claim in green. So it must be a counter-argument to get more than 1 out of 4 on the idea development part of the rubric. It needs to include information from an opposing view that but it won't weaken your paper. It will strengthen it. It may feel weird to include the other side in your argument paper, but when you do that, you add weight to what you're saying. If you never address your opponent's beliefs in an argument, then you're arguing kind of in space with no reference to whether or not it's in reality. But if you're referencing your opponent in your argument and you're responding directly to someone who disagrees with you and including their beliefs, then you have a really strong argument. So for paragraph 3, we're going to get back to you supporting your statement. The way these are structured is a topic sentence, and then a quote or supporting information from your chosen article, and then an explanation of the quote. So we're going to be adding that explanation to your essay number 3. In essay number 2, I asked for you to have a topic sentence and a quote. In essay number 3, I'm asking you to have a topic sentence, a quote, and an explanation of the quote for full credit on the outline. The outline has thus become a much more close to rough draft assignment in this essay than it was in the essay 2. In essay 2, the outline was very much an outline. In essay 3, the outline is closer to your rough draft than before. Now what that means is if you do the outline, you will have less work to do for your rough draft because you'll already have 3 sentences for each of your paragraphs ready to go. Paragraph 4 is very similar to paragraph 3. It's another supporting paragraph for your original claim, the statement in green at the top of your page. You're doing the same thing as in paragraph 3. You're starting with a topic sentence, including a quote or supporting information, and then you're going to explain the quote or supporting information and how it connects to your statement after that. Just as in the essay 1 and 2, you do not have to include a conclusion. The conclusion paragraph area can be left blank. You don't have to do this part to get full credit on the outline. I recognize that not everyone is ready to conclude their essay while writing an outline, but if you want to use this space, I give you a couple directions that you could go in while using the space. In the conclusion, you could end your essay in a few of these different ways. You could say, in conclusion, deciding between right and wrong is, and then talk about what you found. You could say the difference between right and wrong is clear when you, and then follow that up with the system that you found or use. Or you could say after reading the article, I have changed my mind about right and wrong because, and then include a reference back to the article that struck you as interesting or meaningful. Those are some suggestions that you don't have to take, but if you do, you could set yourself up for an even easier rough draft. All right, that is the outline in a nutshell. We're going to spend effectively the next 2 weeks in that outline document working on those outlines and getting your quotes incorporated into that outline and discussed. For these are our progress assignments in green, our extra credit assignments are in yellow, and our mastery assignment is in red. This is our first mastery assignment that is required for the entire class. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the things that carried extra credit readings 1 through 4, specifically extra credit reading number 2. This is part of the Unit 3 Storytelling and Language as a Tool to Save Our Soul, leading up towards our final unit on voices and choices and writing ourselves into a better place. So we've come through those first 2 units, and now we are reading the things they carried alongside a discussion of right and wrong. So we're kind of getting into some heady ethical and morality stuff. It's a lot of fun. We've done a lot of talk about historic and systemic racism in the United States, and now we're kind of getting into a little bit more philosophical space with this Unit 3 and moving into Unit 4. That was the big picture stuff. What this assignment is effectively is ACT prep. You can read it on your own, or if you listen to me read it with you, I will discuss each question and include the answers with their explanations. So if you listen to my recording, which will be long, the first one was 50 minutes, I fully assume this one to be between 40 and 50 minutes as well. What I'll do is, as I hit each question, I'll play a note on my ukulele, like this. And as soon as you hear that note, pause, answer your question, and then unpause to hear my explanation for why the correct answer is the correct answer. These are long. They are not required. These are extra credit, and they're aimed at preparing you for the ACT that we're going to be hopefully taking before the end of the school year this year. It is good ACT prep for the reading test, and you can finish it, the reading in under 50 minutes if you don't want to listen to the audio, just by skimming through the questions just as you would on the test. In fact, if you don't want to listen to the audio but you do want to get the practice and get the credit, you can do that where you just go through, skim for each of the questions, and use the highlight and comment button on Google Docs to make comments on each of the questions to answer them. So you can try to see how fast you can complete it to practice that as well. The way you're going to be answering the questions in this assignment is to highlight the bold words next to the questions and then add a comment. Effectively, it will look like this. In the assignment, there are bold words next to a picture box. The picture box contains the assignment questions. What you'll do to answer those questions is highlight the bold words that the question is about, and then comment your response. For the vast majority, that means adding just one letter, because most of these are multiple choice questions, just as in the ACT. All right, that's our literature lesson. I hope somebody takes me up on it and either listens through or reads it. It's one of my favorite literature pieces that we teach in JCPS. I would prefer to assign it as a graded assignment, but I really want to keep our graded assignments to a minimum during this second semester. I want to stay laser focused on informational text this semester and poetry when it comes to graded assignments versus last semester, which was kind of a mixture of informational and literature. All right, our informational learning target today is we're going to practice incorporating a quote using a clear process. This means that we can take an interesting quote from a text and build a paragraph around it that connects to a claim. This mini lesson is very much aligned with writing goals, but it's also a good way to read informational texts. Whenever you see them quoting someone, you'll see this done in any good interview or in any good article where they're using a quote. They will use a system very similar to this. All right, so the reason we're doing this is because essay number 3 requires you to use something called SEPI or SEPI or CP or whatever. It's an acronym. It's one of a million that you'll see. What matters is you've already practiced this if you were following along in essay number 2. It's introducing your quote with a signal phrase where you identify the author and include some information to put the source in context. It's providing your evidence, which is a summary, paraphrase, direct quotation, or factual information. It's P, parenthetical citation, which is just a big word for including the page number where you got it from and putting it in parentheses using MLA format. And I, which is interpretation of the evidence or inferences you draw between your ideas and the source materials. We actually did something very similar to this with essay number 2, and we're going to walk through those steps again, kind of using the SEPI language. So step 1 is that signal phrase, and you need to do that because you're using someone else's words, so you need to let your reader know that. The first time you use a quotation from a source, you should introduce the author and the work the quotation is attributed to before you use the quote. Later, you can just use their last name before using the quotation. But try not to get stuck saying he says or she says. You can use a variety of verbs like states, declares, believes, contends, recalls, writes, notes, critiques, propose. There are many more, but the signal phrase is the author and an introduction before your quote. The second step is the evidence and page number. So the quotation should be adding to your argument logically and grammatically, and it should flow with the rest of the paper. To ensure this, you want to use a quotation of the proper length. If it's too short or too long, it's going to mess up your essay. You really should only use a quotation that's more than 3 sentences if you think it would be impossible to eliminate a part of it and still retain the quality of your argument. So when you quote a long passage, like a block quotation, you're going to begin the quotation on the next line, indent the entire quotation, and don't use quotations and marks around it. That's kind of weird, and if you haven't used block quotations before, I'll help you if you do a rough draft. What you'll be doing is you'll drop a large quotation in there that's more than 4 lines long or is 4 lines long, and I'll put it in block quotation format for you. So you can kind of see live in your rough draft exactly how that's done. The third step is to summarize the quotation. This falls under the interpretation part of the SEPI. What you're going to do is rephrase the quote in your own words. So you could do that by starting a sentence with in other words or this refers to, but when you do this, you get another opportunity to argue why this quote is necessary for your defense. In your argument, you get another chance to explain the quote to your reader. You get another chance to explain the quote to yourself before you move on to the next step, which is, I think, more interesting. The next step is analyzing the quotation. This still falls under the I in SEPI. So to do this, you're going to want to identify keywords or phrases that help to explain the significance of the quotation. Why is this quote important? What can you talk about in this quote that matters to you personally? What can you talk about this quote that supports your claim? How can you go into more detail about how it supports your claim? And you're going to be providing your own commentary on the meaning of the quote. Your own beliefs start showing up here. And then this last step, which is still under the I part of interpretation. We had a much more complicated system. We had a 5-step system instead of the SEPI. So this is important because it ties your quotation back into the rest of your paper. This can be done in a lot of different ways, but all include drawing a parallel between the quotation and your argument. So basically talking about how it's relevant to your argument. You should never end a paragraph with a quotation without explaining its significance to your argument. Really, you should never end a paragraph with a quotation without analyzing it. I think you can probably get away without explaining its significance to your argument, but you should always have some kind of analysis after your quote to tie it back into what's going on in your claim. What's that look like? Well, in essay number 2, when we were doing interviews, it looked like this. Step 1 was introduce. Step 2 was quote. Step 3 was rephrase. Step 4 was analyze. And step 5 was reintegrate back into your claim. So in step 1, I introduced my friend Jordan Kelly. While I was interviewing my friend Jordan Kelly on his role as a back-end code developer, he told me the hours are truly flexible, saying, you see my my priming word, saying, my signal word, saying, and then I go into the quote in green. When I'm working on a coding project, I can get it all done in 5 hours, generally, so that 5 hours could happen either at the beginning or end of the project window. And then that's the end of the quote. Step 3 is to rephrase the quote. In other words, after working in coding for a while, Jordan knows how much time a project will take him and can choose when to complete the project during the multiple day window for the project. Other than saying project too many times in that sentence, which is bad writing, I rephrased what he said. Step 4 is analyze. So now I'm going to insert some of my opinion about why this is interesting to me as a potential job, as a potential career. Jordan can, and this is the purple, Jordan can only really do this as an experienced coder because when he first started out, he struggled to determine how long a specific project would take to complete, and he worked for a boss that was far more strict in their timelines for projects. So that's me analyzing what he was talking about. And now for step 5, I'm going to reintegrate it back into my original claim, which is I'm interested in coding because of the flexible hours. This is the blue at the bottom. This is attractive to me as a career opportunity because I like the idea of being given a window to complete a project and then planning my week around my other goals and needs as a dad, plus the project work time. It's flexible enough to allow for some good dad time with my kids and still get the work done. So what I've done here is I've taken in 5 steps, one quote. It's all started when I found the quote, when I'm working on a coding project, I can get it all done in 5 hours generally, so that 5 hours can happen either at the beginning or end of the project window. That green sentence up there blew up into this whole big paragraph just because I thought about it in a couple specific ways. In step 1, I introduced the green sentence by explaining where I got it and who said it. In step 3, I rephrased the green sentence in my own words so that my reader could understand it better. In step 4, I analyzed the green sentence, putting my own opinion on top of it and adding my opinion to deepen the audience's understanding after my paraphrasing in step 3. And then in step 5, I tied the green sentence back to my original claim at the beginning of my essay. So how does that look in this essay? Well, here's the example I give you in your outline assignment. The yellow is the signal phrase here, the green is the evidence, the purple is the interpretation, and the blue is the refocus on the original claim. I removed the rephrasing and the analysis, and I kind of combined them both into the purple here for the sake of SEPI having only 4 steps. So here's how it looks in this essay. Most religions are targeted at helping people choose to do the right thing. In the book, Contemporary Philosophy of Religion, Charles Taliaferro states that, and that's my yellow, that's my signal phrase, and then in green I have a block quote because I found a big quote. Common to most religions is the understanding of the cosmos as a meaningful forum in which we share a responsibility for each other, to care for the vulnerable, and to pursue justice. Most world religions hold that evil, sin, illusion, greed, and cruelty should not exist. And that came from page 218 of the book that I was quoting. And then in purple, I'm going to interpret and analyze. A code of ethics is one of the common factors for world religions, requiring their believers to follow moral guidelines to avoid some form of punishment. And then in blue, I'm going to refocus it back on the original claim. Though nations have formal laws to enforce doing the right thing, religions cross national boundaries and require their believers to do the right thing regardless of a nation's laws. That's kind of circular reasoning. It's not the best written sentence, but you get the idea that I have all 4 of those parts of SEPI. I have the signal phrase in yellow. I have the evidence and the citation in green. I have some interpretation in purple and blue. That's everything you need to do right there in a nutshell. Introduce your quote, and then explain your quote, and then you're good. All right, that brings us to the end of this lesson. Our progress assignments are in green, our extra credit is in yellow, and our mastery is in red. The only assignment that is past due at this point is the Zimbardo reading, which was due on the 5th. We have hit our learning targets, and I'm looking forward to grading those assessments at the bottom. You can once again see our upcoming assignments, our calendar, and thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.